Welcome to the Process Breakdown Podcast, where we talk about streamlining and scaling operations of your company, getting rid of bottlenecks, and giving your employees all the information they need to be successful at their jobs. Now, let's get started with the show.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, host of the Process Breakdown Podcast, where we talk about streamlining and scaling operations of your company, getting rid of bottlenecks, and giving your staff everything they need to be successful at their job. Past guests include David Allen of Getting Things Done, Michael Gerber of the E-Myth, and many, many more. So check out other episodes. Episode is brought to you by SweetProcess. And if you've had team members ask you the same questions over and over again, and it may be the 10th time you spent explaining it, there is a better way. There is a solution. SweetProcess is a software that makes it drop dead easy to train and onboard new staff and save time with existing staff. So not only do universities, banks, hospitals, software companies use them, but first responder government agencies also use them in life or death situations to run their operations. Use SweetProcess to document all your repetitive tasks that eat up your precious time so you can focus on growing your team and empowering them. You could sign up for a free 14-day trial, no credit card required. Go to sweetprocess.com, sweet like candy, SWEET, process.com. Today, I'm super excited. Today, we have Heather McLean and Justin Compton, and they're with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, the records management. And it's crazy. They were telling me they get over 40,000 record requests a year. If you stack that up, like in papers or something, I don't even know, that would probably fill a lot of rooms without even moving. If people don't know, the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services is responsible for investigating charges of abuse, neglect, or exploitation of children, elderly adults, and adults with disabilities. So Heather and Justin, thanks for joining me, and thanks for doing what you guys do.
Thank you. It's awesome.
Yeah. So just tell me, we were talking a little bit before, but tell me a little bit more. We know what the company does, but what you guys do, because you kind of bridge caseworkers, law enforcement, adoptive services. Just give people a general sense of what you do.
Well,
Sure.
we help. Sorry, go ahead, Justin.
No, you go ahead, Heather.
Okay. Well, we help process those over 40,000 requests for records every year. And we've actually seen a 49% increase since 2015. And so it just goes up and up every year. More and more people are moving to Texas, and that means more work for sure. But we provide records to law enforcement. We provide records in response to subpoenas and court orders. We provide records to help facilitate adoptions for children that are in our agency's care. And we also provide records to the general public and to former foster youth. And so we do a lot on that side. And we also help protect and maintain the agency's records to make sure that they're being kept for the right amount of time and stored in safe ways. And so we really do kind of just manage all the different aspects of records for this agency.
And Justin, we were talking a little bit about the adoptive side of things. How does that play a role, and how does that work?
Sure. So a big part of our business operation is providing records to families that are going through the adoption process. So in the state of Texas, before a family can adopt a child, they have to review the complete file. Okay. So that child may have been in the care of DFPS for 1 month or 18 years in some cases. So these files can be extremely large, anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 pages.
Wow.
Big part of a big part of what we do is we're the caretaker of those records. And we also have an arm of our operation that redacts those entire files for confidential information and provides those to families. And, we're really we're really proud that we're able to facilitate and assist in that process. And, we've been, the records management group, we've been a part of thousands of adoptions, and we're proud of that.
That's amazing. Especially, it's so important during, crazy times like COVID, where people need to get their hands on records wherever they are, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's really facilitated our agency's shift to, electronic records, electronic intake of records. And, as we're going to be discussing today, the procedures behind that, and, making sure we have procedures in place that we can facilitate that large of a volume of requests with, limited resources.
Yeah, like 40,000 requests a year. Talk about, we'll talk about how you use SweetProcess and the systems, but just talk in general, what are some of the things, when someone requests something, what are some of the things that have to take place, all the steps that take place to get it to where it needs to go?
Sure. So we have to receive the request, of course. So sometimes that comes from someone internally, like for an adoption, or it might come to us as a letter in the mail, or through various other means. We have some web forms online for law enforcement and others to request as well. And so we take it in, we assess the request to make sure it's not a duplicate of another request we already have. It goes to a team to pull the material and get it ready to be redacted. In most cases, a redactor goes through and removes certain confidential information, which is different for every request depending on who it's going to. And so then we also have a team that works to pull additional things like recordings or paper that's stored physically instead of electronically. And so it can get complicated. Not every request follows the same path through all those steps.
You have to be very, very organized to do this, I imagine.
Yes.
So Justin, talk about the biggest pain. What are some of the big challenges that you've come across? And then, we could talk about how you discovered SweetProcess. What were you looking for in, documenting? Because it seems like these can follow like a choose your own adventure. They can go a million different ways with each one of these files.
Right. Well, I will give Heather the credit for finding SweetProcess, but I will talk about what led us to choosing the software. I think like a lot of organizations, we have, distinct functions with their own manuals, their own processes and procedures. I think we found ourselves in a place where we had 3 manuals that were very large. One was over 200 pages. The other ones were about 100 pages. We're also using SharePoint. We're using Microsoft Word documents, email memos, Excel sheets. I'm sure your audience will really, identify with that. This operation is complex. Our job is fairly simple. We're the caretakers of the records, and we deliver that to the public. It's everything that takes place in between that's difficult. And, we, at the management level, we needed procedures that were repeatable, easy to find. We just needed an overall solution. Those are kind of the main pain points that led us to this software. But it's basically just a large operation with multiple functions and material that had been developed over the years, not in one cohesive place where it's easily accepted.
Like one person using a manual, like someone's creating an Excel spreadsheet and there's a Microsoft Word document, and then just whatever people decide to use, they used, and it's like a mishmash of stuff, and you're trying to find it. And so, Heather, talk a little about what led you to, okay, we need to find something when you started trying to discover before you found SweetProcess. What was going on for you?
Sure. So we, over time, have had many big projects to kind of overhaul all our manuals. And then we got to a place where we just could not update it fast enough. And the ETA to get it done was like a year, because it was just so much. and it was like 3 separate manuals that had certain points of overlap, and it all had to be reviewed by someone. And we didn't have a perfect way to get that done either. Email and Word documents, and then reconciling all that together. So I started looking for an application that could help us, because I definitely saw that there was a better way to organize this information than using Word documents. And we had started posting some things on our internal website, but that was a lot for our web team to handle as well. So that's where I started looking for an application. And I really liked SweetProcess because it lets you build like a process machine. So it's not just another place to store a book of processes. It lets you plug everything in so that it's all cohesive and yet independent, so that when, let's say, your process to research and locate a record, that application changes, IT makes an update to it, I can go and update that one process to go research a record, and it's already plugged into all my other processes about each request type. And so I don't have to go to 8 places and update that. I can just update it once. And I love that it has processes that you can plug procedures into, and then a separate place for policy. That's really helped us too, because we tended to try and put everything together in one procedure for everything. And it became so lengthy and so wordy, trying to give all the background and the history and why we do this request type and all the background knowledge, that it just took forever to get everything reviewed and for everyone to agree. And so splitting up the step-by-step from the overall process, from the policy, is also one of the things I really like about SweetProcess. And it's really simple to use. We've shown a few other staff members, and they've all kind of been able to dive in and make processes right away.
That's a big deal, because not everyone has varying levels of like tech savviness. And so to have something that's, it sounds like, easy for people to dive into is a big deal.
Oh yeah. And it's really, I like that it keeps things so simple. Because I think we definitely had a tendency to overcomplicate, and this really helps provide a baseline for us to kind of keep everything neat and in line.
Yeah. Justin, what features do you find that have been most useful, or that you like, or the team likes?
So, like Heather said, the organization is very helpful. I think I'll talk about it from the management side, mm-hmm. which we've been diving into a bit lately. One of the really interesting features that as we were implementing this, I didn't even know existed. You have the ability to kind of track the engagement for each process or procedure you're making. So you can see how often it's being visited, who's visiting. That staff can make comments as well if they notice anything that's incorrect. So from a management side, being able to see what our team's work, that our staff are engaging in it, I mean, that is really helpful. We implemented a new software, and I saw that was basically our staff went to that page over 150 times in 1 week. And that was really valuable to me, because when you're creating a new process, you don't know how that's going to be. You don't even know if your staff reviewing it. You don't know if they're doing it correctly. But if you can see that data there, and I was able to pull a report, send it to our director, it's really valuable. And then as well, the ability to keep version history in there, so we can basically have a historical feed of when did we make changes, why did we make changes. Having that all in one place rather than in multiple places, it's really efficient from a management perspective.
Yeah. Oh, I could totally see that, Justin. Like, you're looking and go, okay, is this going to be valuable? Like, well, yeah, our whole staff is living in this one procedure. Not only that, but you see what's actually a daily task that people are doing a lot, and where are they spending their time depending on how they're visiting it. So I could totally see that gives you visibility without having to ask questions. Like, okay, cool. Like I see these people are visiting this page a lot. We better make sure the system's honed in because this is important for our company. And so the engagement and the usage and the version history too. And Heather, from your standpoint, any other features that you have heard from other staff or that you actually, that makes it easier for your job?
I really like that it builds a little workflow as you're building the procedure. And so you have that visual there, both for the person writing the procedure to see like, have I made this path correctly? Because it allows you to, skip steps or direct people to one step or another, depending on the answer to a question, like, do you need to do A or B? And then that also makes it easier for the person who's viewing that procedure to kind of have that little summarized flow chart there to look at as well.
When I think of this seems like a daunting, huge project. Like if I saw a manual sitting in the corner, I'd be like, forget it. I'm not doing it. So how did you transfer all this knowledge in Excel spreadsheets and binders and manuals and Microsoft documents into SweetProcess?
I'll take that one. Yeah. That's a great question. So with the advice of our director, we basically created a library, an inventory of basically everything we have out there. So the manuals, the random Word documents, the random Excel documents, we put the call out to our staff, what are you guys using? Let us know. So we documented all that. We put that in an inventory. And then, I have a team of basically 4 people who help with our policy and process and things like that. We basically split up the duties between those 4. We did some basic training on how to use the application, and we just started to run with it. And as the weeks went by, we were able to use the decision trees better and more of the features of the software, and it really wasn't as daunting as you think. We were able to copy over large portions of our manuals and then just add those decision trees in there and add some media. So at first it is daunting, but if you can take a catalog of what you have, and devote some resources internally to transferring that material, that really works. And then what we're also finding is SweetProcess is so user friendly that we're actually able to utilize resources on the front line and have them edit and put things in there, and then we can approve it. So it's not as daunting as it seemed a year ago.
Okay. When you explain it, it seems super daunting. It's like eating an elephant one bite at a time. But I like how you broke it down. You took inventory of everything you had, and then you go, okay, like we need to get all of this in systematically in organized fashion. Talk about, Heather, how has it changed your typical day?
Well, it just makes it so much easier to have one place to go. And we are still in the process of kind of rolling this out to all our staff. Mm-hmm. But it's already helped me where there's certain tasks I do that no one else does. And I realized I don't have this documented anywhere. And so it's so easy for me to go into SweetProcess. I go in a folder that I've made for just that category of tasks and document it. And I can do it really quickly. And that way that resource is there in case, I need backup from somebody. Or it also makes it easier to share tasks with others as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see it taking the pressure off. Like, oh my God, I'm the only one who knows how to do this. It's going to take forever to explain it to someone. I'm just going to do it myself. And this way you can maybe go, hey, here it is, do it. And then you maybe have a million other things that you need to do in addition. Right. Yeah.
Or those little issues where it comes up in an email and you're like, didn't we solve this 3 years ago? That's where I'm trying to be more mindful and say, I'm going to go make a SweetProcess about this because 3 years from now, when it comes up again, I don't want to spend an hour hunting down that email and figuring out the history behind that. Yeah.
you have to be a detective like every time something new arises, as opposed to just pulling up the process. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Justin, what about you? How has it changed your typical day?
So, I'm going to assume your audience is a lot of people in my position, managers, directors, CEOs, those type of people. I'll just tell you, I think my, excitement to get this out was really selfish, because we would get inquiries from, people above us. Hey, why did we do this? What is this procedure? Where is it? Why hasn't this been updated? And Heather and I both saw, if we have this documented in one place, we can point stakeholders directly to that procedure and have those questions answered instantly without going through 5 years of email, which is, which I'm sure a lot of people do that for every problem that comes up. They sort their email, look back in 2016 and see what happened. But for our staff, we have a lot of repeatable tasks, and we are kind of cross-training our staff, because a lot of them are now in a virtual environment and they've taken on new tasks. Those tasks, we're able to train our staff easier on those because they are repeatable. They're in a consistent format. We have, we've been able to add audio, video, media, things like that.
Yeah.
It's really helpful day to day.
Yeah, I could see that, Justin. Someone asked a question, like instantly you could take a screenshot. Yep, we use it, and it was viewed 72 times yesterday or whatever, and like boom, and you send it off. When you were researching it, Heather, I'm curious, there's probably certain essentials you need in something like this, like privacy or security. What were some of the things that you saw in SweetProcess that, I know like right now you're using it, it's easy, it's, the staff are using it. What were some things early on, some of those features like, okay, these are musts that I needed to be incorporated into a software like this?
Well, definitely being able to set up permissions for who can see what process. Generally, we make them all available to all our staff so they can each see everyone else's part. But there's times when it just is more simple to separate things out. And also, I really like how we can work on a process and then publish it only when we're ready. And that is really helpful too, that we don't have to kind of figure it all out in a separate document and then write it up and publish it right at that moment. We can work on it and control who sees the in-process document.
Nice. I have one last question for both of you, but first of all, thank you. Thanks for sharing, the process and your knowledge, and, just any company, staff, manager, leader, if things aren't organized, it's really hard to do things. So I appreciate you sharing your process with everyone. So the question I have for each of you is, what's the next step? Someone's listening, they're like, I need to streamline my operations. Okay. What are some of the next steps they should take to start to streamline their operations? And Justin, you could talk from the management side of things. So Justin, you want to start, what should they're like, okay, I have manuals sitting in the corner or whatever it is, right? What should people start to do to streamline operations from your perspective?
Right. So, I will say our organization, we have been studying eMyth and, the principle of systematizing your business. And, organizations, businesses, they need processes, they need systems. We heard a story about an admin who would, continually get in trouble every Friday, didn't have her work well if there was no checklist, right? So if you can get everything in your business basically cataloged and put into any sort of system, SweetProcess or not, you're really going to be headed on the right path. As far as SweetProcess, I would recommend people just give this software a try. Try documenting one very simple procedure, and show it to some of your peers and see what they think. And I really think you'll get a lot of buy-in and a lot of excitement because because once you get this stuff documented, it takes a lot of your time away. You don't have to be putting out fires, finding things.
It's freeing.
Yeah, it is.
Nice. Thanks, Justin. Heather, what about you? What's someone's needing to streamline operations? They need to document procedures. What are the next few steps you recommend people taking?
Well, definitely creating an inventory is really helpful, and thinking about separating your policy, which is maybe why you do things, from your procedures, which is the step-by-step of how, because that will just make the whole project feel so much and be so much simpler, to separate those two things out. And then, just like eating the elephant, you just one little bite at a time. Get help from members of staff who maybe want to take on an extra project like that, or have the institutional knowledge that you want to capture. We definitely have lots of people that help us document procedures, and that helps make things easier too. And it's definitely an upfront investment that will save you a lot. It's very painful to have to continually research things, and it's daunting to make that upfront investment to get it all documented, but it doesn't all have to be done in a day. And as you make progress on that, it'll bring returns every step of that way.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Heather. Really appreciate it. Check out other episodes of the Process Breakdown podcast, and enjoy the day.
Thanks for listening to the Process Breakdown podcast. Before you go, quick question. Do you want a tool that makes it easy to document processes, procedures, and/or policies for your company so that your employees have all the information they need to be successful at their job? If yes, sign up for a free 14-day trial of SweetProcess. No credit card is required to sign up. Go to SweetProcess.com, sweet like candy, and process like process.com. Go now to SweetProcess.com and sign up for your risk-free 14-day trial.